So welcome back to DecoyNoise, where we're taking stories from r/am I the a-hole. We'll read the top comments and the controversial comments, then have you, the viewer, decide the final verdict in Decoy Court, with today's featured post being, am I the antagonist for keeping my husband's comfort bear that holds an audio clip of his dead ex until he agrees to go to therapy? So Reddit has says they're the antagonist, but we'll be the final decider of that. OP writes, when my husband was in high school, he dated his best friend at the time for 2 months. They didn't break up, she died in a car accident. God rest her soul. I also attended the same high school, albeit a student 2 years junior, but we only started dating after we both went to colleges that were close by each other. From when we started dating to now, my husband has his stuffed bear with an audio clip of his ex saying, I love you in it. You know, one of those bears you can squeeze and they say the audio. Every night he squeezes it and supposedly helps him fall asleep. He never went to therapy to get over her death, and the fact that he still has the bear and squeezes it to help him fall asleep at least once every night leads me to believe that he still hasn't moved on from her death. At first, when we started dating, I was okay with it. I know that everyone has different times for processing loss, and that she wasn't just his lover, but also, based on what he told me, she was his best friend who was there for him some hard times in his life. However, as the years moved on, he remained attached to the bear, if not more so. I suggested and started pushing for therapy. He adamantly refused at the time, saying we couldn't afford it, which was true because we were both struggling financially. Now, however, we're both financially stable and able to afford therapy. He just refuses to go. We got into a huge fight about it yesterday, and I ended up taking the bear. I told him I won't give it back until he promises to either attend some sort of online counseling or actual therapy when the lockdown is over. My husband is extremely upset with me. I don't want him to get rid of the bear by any means. I think it's a lovely idea to continue to honor the memory of his best friend, but his attachment to the bear is nuts. He needs to hug it every night no matter what, panics if he can't find the bear, panics if I take it for a bit to wash it or clean it, etc. I want him to keep the bear, but stop being so attached to it. I communicated this to him several times over the years, but he has either brushed it off or told me that I'm disrespecting his ex. I know at face value what I did is definitely the antagonist move, but I think I have just enough justification and reason behind my actions. It's going to be 22 years next month since she died, and I just don't think his obsessive attachment for this long is healthy. Still though, my husband hasn't talked to me ever since the fight, unless it's him demanding the bear. I'm starting to feel like I did the wrong thing. Edit. I don't know how this got so twisted, but I'm not jealous of the bear or his late girlfriend. The issue isn't the bear, it's my concern for my husband's mental health. Maybe I made a poor judgment call, but it sure as heck wasn't me acting out of my own jealousy. So taking the case and rushing it over to Decoy Court, because this one is kind of ridiculous, is the idea is they're doing their best to try to convince themselves that they're not jealous of the ex-girlfriend. It's just this inanimate object and his attachment to the inanimate object. But the bear wouldn't mean a dang thing if it wasn't attached to his ex-girlfriend that was saying I love you to him. She's upset about that. I mean, it makes sense that she's going to be upset about like him holding on to a keepsake from an ex, but the ex has passed on. She's not coming back. There's nothing to do with it. He chose you, proposed to you, got married to you, and now you're still upset because of a bear of his best friend is still around. Yes, it's quite bizarre, but nobody lives this fairy tale lifestyle where it happened exactly how a Disney Channel original movie told them it was going to be. So I'm going to go ahead and say in Decoy Court, not the end. Oh, no. Husband, not the antagonist. OP, you are the antagonist. I rarely agree with Reddit's decision, but, you know, this is kind of the thing. I guess the decoy defense of it, what would be the inverse of that? Would be a situation where the husband actually, like, has full-on conversations with the bear, has private time where the OP has to leave the room, and he takes the bear to dinners and vacations and still buys it a present and sets out food for it every meal. Yeah, that could be a situation where you probably need to get a therapist involved, but I don't think any of that would have occurred, because if it was happening, they would have included in the story to help bolster their argument. But as always, we're going to take a brief recess in Decoy Court. I want to know what your thoughts are on story number 1, getting rid of a bear you're jealous of. Let me know your comments down below. And also, if you enjoy what I'm doing over here with the face, the comments, the Decoy Court, the decoy defense, make sure you subscribe down below. Turn on those notifications, because as you know, it's hard to find my content if you don't have those notifications on. But the top reply is, you're the antagonist. You can encourage him to get therapy all you want, but it's ultimately his decision. He has clearly some issues with anxiety, and you stealing the possession he uses to calm himself down is going to make it worse. Give it back now and apologize profusely if you want to save your marriage. Agree with all of that comment right there. Next top comment. Not the antagonist. It sounds like you finally had enough. He dated this person for 2 months 22 years ago, yet can't sleep unless he hears her voice to say I love you. I'm surprised he doesn't clutch her picture that you didn't draw a line in the sand and take this toy away years ago. He's being very hurtful and disrespectful to you. I'd make a counseling a requirement for staying in this marriage. Give him back his binky and tell him to go choose his mental health or his marriage or this stand-in for his long-dead girlfriend. Okay, the stand-in for his long-dead girlfriend, the bear. So it's good to see both sides of the argument, but the idea is, you know, they're saying that he dated this person for 2 months, but apparently they were best friends for most of his life, and he also said that she helped him get through things. If he has a keepsake, maybe that is a problem, but I just don't see somebody with that much damage having an issue with being able to resolve their issues with tough love by taking the bear away and say, you go see this therapist now. If OP doesn't want to be married to the husband because he hasn't let go of the ex-girlfriend or the ex-girlfriend from before, or the ex-best friend, then walk away from the relationship. Don't give him ultimatums because you don't like how he's acting and want to fix him. Either is the person you want to date or he's not the person you want to date. But let's go ahead and shoot over to those controversial comments and see what everybody else is saying. You're the antagonist. Wow, dude. Probably should go to therapy, but no degree of rationalizing makes you not the antagonist in this situation. I mean, dang, she's dead. Not exactly competition for damn sake. I don't know how to say that. So, the next reply, you're the antagonist. He might need therapy, but is him having a stuffed bear the hill you want to die on? It's obviously very important to him, and you took it from him and are using it to extort him for something. I don't deny that he could benefit from therapy, but holding his bear hostage is not the way to go about it. Which is a bizarre way to get your way in a marriage between adults, where taking a bear is something you do when you're trying to wean your kid off of having his favorite blankie or binky or whatever, and now they're treating him as if it's the same thing. I don't agree with this at all. So Decoy Court is staying firm with the decision of OP being the antagonist, but maybe you in the Decoy Koi pond down below say something else. So we'll go over to the second story of the day, which is, am I the antagonist for enforcing that my son use his college fund to pay back his child support? All the names are fake. My wife and I have 2 kids. Our oldest is Josh. He just started his 2nd year in college, full disclosure. I'm not Josh's biological dad, but I'm married to his mom since he was 8. He's my son in all but blood. Josh has a full-ride scholarship at his college. His mom and I are very proud. He has ambitions for law school after graduation. A few months ago, we were contacted by Tina, a girl who claimed to have had a baby boy with Josh. The baby is a little under 18 months old. Tina said Josh had ghosted her and blocked her on all platforms. She'd been trying to get back in touch with him, but when that didn't work out, she began to look for his parents to contact. She finally found us and begged us to get Josh to talk to her. We were skeptical at first. He said he knew the girl but denied the baby. We insisted on a paternity test, 2 of them, and they were positive. Tina has gone through the courts and is now pushing for back child support for the baby. Josh is panicking. He doesn't have much income or savings other than his college fund from his mom and I that we were paying into. He wanted us to use that money for his first apartment and for law school. My wife wants to help him pay. The payments aren't much now and we could afford to, but I'm against it. We, wife and I, agreed that our kids would be responsible for themselves once they moved out. We'd help them if they needed it, but only if it was reasonable. To me, paying his child support for a baby he tried to abandon is unreasonable. He has the money in his fund, he just doesn't want to use it. Josh is afraid of not being able to afford law school without big loans in the future, and to that I say, tough. Should have thought of that before bringing a child into the world. My wife thinks I'm unfairly punishing him, and paying the support would be both investing in the baby and Josh's future. I have no interest in taking care of an infant again this late in life. I'm fine with being a grandpa, but not a stand-in dad while Josh gets off scot-free. He needs to step up and take care of his kid. Edited to add. I suddenly have a flood of responses to read. I can't find the info post I meant to reply to, so I'll address some questions here. Tina, according to her, tried to get in contact with Josh while she was still pregnant. He denied the baby was his and ignored her. They weren't dating. She attends community college, not his university. She has evidence of multiple attempts to contact him both before and after the baby was born. I don't know about protection being used. I'd hope they were careful that this was just an accident, but I'm not going to ask about all the details of my son's adult life. The deed is done. The baby exists. He needs to step up and be a dad. So taking the case over to Decoy Court, because this one needs it over here, is a situation where I see what the knee-jerk response is, where OP is not Josh's biological dad, and his actual biological mother, the wife, wants to pay for the child support. But this is a bad lesson to learn, where Josh is not going to starve, he's not going to be kicked out of college, he's not going to be raising the kid, he just needs to pay some back child support, which he has the funds to do. It would be a disservice to his own son, Josh's son, to not give him the money out of the college fund if it's there. If it means he has to pick up a part-time job, so be it. If it means that he needs to be able to live in a dorm room with 7 roommates, or he needs to get an apartment in an area he doesn't like, so be it. It's sad to say, but if you made a mistake, it's actually the paternity test was accurate in a way that Josh can verify that it is indeed his son, he's got to pay for it. If he has the money in the college fund, it's his money, he should pay for it. Decoy Court says that OP's not the antagonist. I feel like that would be the situation. I guess the only other thing would be, what would be the decoy defense? The inverse of that is if it's unverifiable. They said, hey, did you take a paternity test? Yes, I did. Did you take another paternity test? Yes, I did. They both came out positive. Is Josh saying that they actually had a relationship? Yeah, I mean, kind of. Maybe he knows her, but he never fesses up to it. So it's just this thing where they're trying to pin it on somebody that has a law school future and also a whole bunch of money stacked up from mom and dad. I mean, unless you could verify it, I could see them not being the antagonist. But I guess we're just going to go ahead and go over to that brief recess. Let me know what you think in Decoy Court in the comment section down below for story number 2, paying child support with your college fund. Is that something you should be doing? I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. But the top comment is, not the antagonist. Thank you for standing up for the girl and the baby. Josh needs to understand the actions have consequences. True. And the next reply to that was, agreed. Not the antagonist. You're teaching your son a valuable lesson, especially if he wants to be a lawyer. He can understand the importance of consequences. Very true. Next top comment, which got the stars and all the awards, saying, okay, you're not the antagonist. He has the money in the fund. He just doesn't want to use it. And then this commenter went on to write, I agree, law school would be great, but he doesn't have that luxury. If he's still able to get a college degree and also has the money to support a child, he's doing well enough. And how many mothers had to give up dreams of law school to look after the baby? And that's the thing, is if it's genuinely his kid, all he has to do is give up some extra money he has lying around. It's kind of his responsibility. Plenty of people have to make concessions in their life where they don't actually get to do exactly. It doesn't unfold the way they ideally thought it was going to, and that's just reality of things. So let's go ahead and shoot over to those controversial comments where they say, this is tough. I don't think either of you are wrong. I can see both perspectives. You want to force him to be responsible, but you also don't want to be arbitrarily punishing your own grandchild. Could you possibly do it as an interest-free loan that will be expected to pay back with paperwork? Then he's not dealing with student loan interest, but he's still on the hook for responsibilities. No antagonist here. And I thought he got a scholarship, so that would be a non-factor, but also the idea when you're giving your family members a loan, even with paperwork, you can never expect to get that money back. So that's just OP being on the hook for his stepson's issues. So another comment which got heavily downvoted is, you're the antagonist. You're in a position to help your son avoid destroying his 20s with his child support debt and perhaps even having to skip law school and getting a dead-end job. If you help him now, he can get into a better career and a better financial position much sooner than he would without your help. He could probably just manage just fine. He'll just have to apply for student loans, work some crazy hours on a part-time job. But again, you're in a position to preserve your son's mental, emotional, and financial well-being. So do it. He made one huge F-up. That's enough punishment. You don't have to pile on. If you can afford to help him without hurting yourself financially, then help him. Wow. So in this situation, this is the most entitled person I've encountered on Reddit so far, where they're saying that, like, yes, if you can take the hit for your son's mistake, just do it. He's entitled to have a better life even though he makes mistakes. Like, no, this is the real world. I'm sorry. Like, if you make a mistake, you have to suffer the consequences, and it's sad to say that the grandchild is a consequence, but it is. It's a situation where he needs to figure out how to handle his own issues. If he didn't want this situation, shouldn't have been with a girl, and this is just not a life. This is not the world we live in. This is not reality where you mess up and mommy and daddy come over and kiss your boo-boo and say, okay, cool, we'll pay your child support payments just because they can. Not realistic. So let me know what your comments are down below, but let's go to that third and final story of the day, which is, am I the antagonist for not accepting food as a payment towards personal debt? OP writes, my husband is the one who wanted me to post this, but it'll still be in his point of view. I, a 23-year-old male, and my wife, a 20-year-old female, recently decided to move into our own place. My brother, a 22-year-old male, was looking to move in as well, and he really didn't want to live alone, so we agreed he could move in with us and we would split the bills 50-50. Since moving in together, my wife and I have paid significantly more than the 50%. We agreed to pay the move-in fees and deposit, and we're expecting to split the first month's rent, $1,600. We ended up paying the full rent for him, which made the total upfront payment come out to be $2,600, but all three of us failed to communicate what the expectations were regarding that, so we just let it slide. But then, he came to us and said he didn't have enough money for his half of the rent the second month, $800. We had the money for it and didn't want to be evicted on our only second month here, so we agreed to pay it, but he has to pay us back and start working more side jobs because we do not want to pay for him again in the future. He's paid his side of the rent since then, but hasn't contributed to the light bill or internet bill or groceries at all since moving in. We've paid for that 100%. The only payment he's made that he gave us was $80, and we decided to count that as his contribution towards internet for that month because it's about half. Today, while playing video games, he brought up that he wanted to buy the new Call of Duty for a friend. I mentioned the fact that he hasn't been paying us anything for the bills or paying him back the personal debt when we paid for his side of the rent, and you should really prioritize that, not video games. His excuse that he bought my wife and I food a few times, and we shouldn't be counting the cost of food as payments. We should have been counting the cost as payments. This seems ridiculous because 1, we never agreed upon this beforehand. 2, he offers the food and we've only actually accepted it maybe like 3 times. And 3, we buy him food too. And 4, as I said before, we buy all the groceries, which he also eats. So I told him that no, food does not count as payments towards bills or towards what he owes us. And he got upset about that and said he was going to stop buying us food. I said that's fine. I'd rather him pay his bills. Am I the antagonist for not counting food as currency? Last time I checked, I can't really send a burger to a light company. So ETA, a lot of people were asking about the 50-50 split on bills. When my wife and I were originally looking for places ourselves, we were looking for places that we could afford on my income alone because she currently cannot work. Since my brother didn't want to live alone and agreed to move with him, we were still looking for places within our price range, but he insisted on this specific place. We told him straight up that we wouldn't be able to afford a 2/3 portion of my salary, and he agreed to a 50-50 because he really wanted this place since it's right by his job. And my wife makes her contribution by nearly doing all the cleaning and all the cooking for the household. So taking the case and rushing over to Decoy Court is a situation of, why do you gotta raise your younger brother? Why are you paying all his bills? Why are you making it easy on him? If this was the real world, just like the other stories, you kind of have to kick him out because you don't want to be evicted yourself. I understand if he was going through a hard time in his life where you want to pick up the slack, just like how your wife can't work right now, so you're helping pick up the slack, but it's like, no, he's just actively trying to swindle you out of money, saying, I bought you a burger that counts for a month's rent. That doesn't make any sense. So OP, you're not the antagonist at all, but I could see the other situation where it's what's the defense is, yes, you guys agreed to a 50-50 split, but the utilities, electricity, water, all that stuff, that could maybe not be as fair as they'd like to think. Cleaning, they say a burger can't be a form of payment, but then her cleaning can be a form of payment. So I could see a little bit of a miscommunication in that, but overall, I don't really see how that could go the other way where OP is not the antagonist. So as always, Decoy Court will take a brief recess. Let me know what you guys are thinking down below, and we'll shoot over to those top comments right now. Because the top comment, aka the prosecution, is not the antagonist, but you all need to go away and decide what each of your expectations are of each other, then come back together to have an adult conversation together about it. Then write up what you all agree and sign it to confirm you agree. And the thing is, with family, it's hard to get them to sign a contract, much less make them abide by the contract, because your family, you're supposed to be looking out for each other. So this was a messy situation to begin with. The next top comment is not the antagonist, but why is he paying full half? A full half. Do you and your wife share purely one room? Does he pay a full half for the utilities too? Or is that split 3 ways? OP writes, yes, my wife and I share a room with our 1-year-old. We're having a baby in January too, who will also be in our bedroom. My wife's brother is moving into the 3rd room, and we will resplit all the bills and make it cheaper for everyone. So this sounds like it's actually much more. There's a lot more going on in the story than we thought, because of the idea that the baby's there's going to be another baby and another person else is moving in, and now there's other expenses going on. There's likely stuff that we're not seeing in this, so to give everybody their fair shake, maybe there is childcare. Maybe he's babysitting when they're at work. Maybe there is a situation with how they're handling the utilities, because babies are expensive and also probably need more food and everything, and he's not actually eating as much out of the freezer than they think. So there's a lot that's in the air. Let's go ahead and shoot over to those controversial comments to get a defense for this person. So it says, you're the antagonist. A 50-50 split is not fair. I'm sure he'll realize this and move out because you're being unfair. So he is 1 person and you pay equal to a house of 3 if you include your child, which is like 4, yeah. It should be a 3-way split between the adults. You have been sneaky in selling him this, and he probably only accepted it out of desperation. Shame on you. So I think that OP was kind of doing the brother a favor by helping them move into that place that's closer to the brother's work, but also the idea is it's not fair, and also he should be paying equal. What if they agreed to it? Yes, they say you're being sneaky on selling him onto this. Well, he never had the money in the first place. He didn't pay the first month's, he didn't pay the next month's rent, and then he's been okay ever since, and also not paying the utilities. I don't think that he's being taken advantage of. I think he's taking advantage of OP. But one more controversial comment is not the antagonist. I really do not understand how people can feel fine leeching off others all the time. I suggest you have a talk with him and actually draw up some type of contract and agreement stating all expectations, such as his portion of money to be paid by X of day of each month. Guessing you all have jobs so you can take turns to clean and cook. If he decides to buy food rather than make it on his night to cook, he can't throw it in your face, vice versa. Your brother is taking great advantage of the fact that you're always there to cover his share of the rent when he can't. You better put up a stop to it before he basically starts living there for free. And the idea is, I don't think he's going to be living there for free. He's just taking advantage of his situation because the money's already been spent. It's going to be hard to get back. And all these people saying, have him sign a contract. Well, if he's not there to uphold the social contract or just pay his brother back money, I don't think paper or writing on paper is going to help. Even taking him to court where they got to show up in court and then they got to be providing evidence and receipts and everything, that's all going to be just more work for OP, and he's never going to see that money. So I'm still going to stick with the idea that OP, not the antagonist, but it was probably a bad idea to move in with somebody that your brother, you probably knew he was probably bad with money in the first place, so everybody kind of splits the blame a little bit. So as always, if you appreciate what I'm doing over here with the DecoyNoise channel, Decoy Court, the Decoy Defense, make sure you subscribe down below. Make sure you join that Decoy Koi Pond by turning on the notifications, because oftentimes it's hard to find my channels in your feed. But as always, like the video, share the channel overall. But if none of that wants to be something that you want, if you don't want to do any of that, I'm Yoda talking right now. If you don't want to do any of that, just make sure you put this on autoplay and check out one of the episodes of DecoyNoise coming up next.